Well, the latest in a string of aviation disasters and emergencies happening in Denver last night when an American Airlines flight made an emergency landing and the engine caught fire while it taxied.
Travel expert Peter Greenberg joins us now to talk about this and other news in the travel industry. Let's start at that situation in Denver. An engine fire is not horribly common, but it does happen. But to see one on the ground like that, where people are walking out on the wing, wow.
Well, let me walk you through this. It really was not an emergency landing. In fact, the pilot didn't even declare an emergency. Here's what happened. It was a flight going from Colorado Springs to Dallas. When they were at altitude, the crew in the cockpit determined there was too much vibration and shaking of the right engine. They made the decision at that point to divert to the nearest airport with the longest runway. That would be Denver. And it was only when they landed, they were even taxiing to the gate when that engine caught fire. And that's when the emergency was declared. The fire crews were there very quickly. As you can see, smoke pouring out of the plane, people out on every exit they could on the left side of the plane, the right side exit, of course, being blocked, all of them by the smoke and the fire. Everybody got out alive. Yeah. Now, what they're looking at right now is what could have caused it. We know what didn't cause it. It was not a bird strike because this happened at altitude. One of two things they're looking at, of course, nothing determined fully yet. Either a compressor stall on the right engine, or a fan blade partial or full disintegration, which would really muck up the operation of that engine and cause the fire. So the good news is they didn't declare an emergency. Of course, they're able to fly on one engine. They were actually flying on both engines when they landed. So this thing happened only after they came to the ground and started taxiing.
Interesting. A lot of questions, though, still. You know, every time you've got one of these incidents that happen, you know, we've seen a few of them over the course of the last few months, people get more and more scared to fly, and they're worried, right? So is anything being done actively to try to minimize some of those concerns that people have right now?
Well, that worry is going to continue, considering the fact that everybody now is a citizen journalist, and everybody whips out their cell phone and starts recording it. If you actually do a statistical analysis of the number of incidents that we've had this year versus previous years, it's actually less. It's just being reported more. You'll see even the people coming off that plane on the wing had their cell phone cameras out. In Toronto, before they even exited the plane, they were shooting it with their cell phone cameras. So this is just it's a lesser of two evils, I suppose. But the point is that's inevitable. People are going to shoot it. People just need to put it in perspective, as I just tried to do right now.
Let's talk a little bit about supply and demand for the airlines, because that, of course, affects what we all care about, and that's price. You saw Southwest Airlines, which has been having some financial problems, get rid of the best perk that they had, which was free luggage. Some of the other airline execs are saying they think uncertainty around the economy may hurt demand. How do you see all of this playing out? Because the airlines were doing really well up until recently.
Well, there are two separate things at work here. One is the one you just mentioned about Southwest Airlines trying to generate new revenue. And that's something that goes against the entire culture of that airline when it comes to free bags. Remember, Southwest Airlines branded their entire airline around the idea that bags fly free. It became an incentive, if you will, for a lot of people to fly the airline. That's on one part of the equation. The other part of the equation is the economy itself. Already Southwest and Delta have announced they're slashing their latest quarterly earnings projections by half. Already we're seeing about a 22% drop off in foreign travel to the United States. A lot of those people saying they perceive America as being unwelcoming. And we're also seeing airfares dropping momentarily in this country. We found about 26 different airfares between the United States and Europe right now of under $500 round trip, simply because because of the uncertainty of Wall Street, what's going on in terms of trade wars and tariffs, and of course the economy in general, they may stay a little bit closer to home in the short term.
But that, not expected to extend long term. Okay, Peter Greenberg, we appreciate your time. You can catch Peter on WGN Radio Saturdays from 5 to 8 p.m. and check out his website, petergreenberg.com. We could talk to you all afternoon, but we know you have to go.
Thanks, Peter.
Bye, guys.
All right.